Hello and welcome to your #1 legal talk show, The Courthouse, where we get to learn the law in plain, simple and entertaining language. And as I always say, The Courthouse is our law class 101 because the law is made very, very interesting and plain. We will go on a quick break now. We'll be right back.
If we have to give you anything, then we have to give you everything. Lava Plus Channel 465 is simply the best. Because we have something for every member of the family. So dads, keep the team spirit going on with our intriguing sport highlights and reviews. And moms, cooking is never boring when you have our intriguing drama series. And for all your lovely kids, just sit and enjoy. This, and oh this. I told you, we have something for everyone. Because we are indeed all about you. So keep it locked on Lava Plus Channel 465 on Star Times.
You're welcome back. This week on the show, we are going to be talking about illegal arrests, and it's something that is quite rampant in the society these days, not just in Nigeria, but in different parts of the world, and it's something that we are calling on the government, calling on the police officers and everyone involved in this area to actually address. And this week, I'm joined by two interesting persons. I'm joined by a legal practitioner who is our panelist today. He is Eliezer Nwandiagu.
Nwandiagu, yes.
Nwandiagu. You're welcome to the courthouse.
Thank you very much.
And I'm joined by my co-panelist, co-anchor. She's Toyosi Okpanubi.
Thank you very much.
And in following weeks, you're going to be seeing Toyosi on the courthouse alone and giving us interesting legal topics as well.
Thank you very much. Very good to be here.
Okay. So, looking at this topic, illegal arrests. So, Eliezer, what do you think about this topic, illegal arrests?
Yes, I think it is a germane topic. I think it is a topic that affects every one of us today. In a sane society, you would expect that criminals or criminal elements or suspects would actually be arrested when there's a suspicion of a crime. However, when the people who are saddled with the responsibility of protecting innocent persons from criminal elements go to arrest those innocent persons on flimsy ground, then it becomes a reason to be very perturbed. So I think it's a very germane issue. And again, if you look at what we have going on in this country in recent times, of course, illegal arrest has always been a problem, but it is now a hydra-headed problem. It is a monstrous problem. And I think it's a very interesting and germane topic.
Okay. So, Toyosi, you want to make a comment or ask any questions?
Yes, I'd like to say that, as Barrister Eliezer said, this illegal arrest, especially in our society, it has become, if you go everywhere right now, you realize that this is the prevailing topic in the mass of a lot of citizens. People being arrested illegally, people being arrested, quote unquote, anyhow. They just, you know, the security authorities are the ones doing this, and that begs the question: what is an illegal arrest?
Yes.
What is an illegal?
What would constitute
an illegal arrest, really, Barrister Eliezer?
Okay. Now, usually before the police would make an arrest, you would have a situation in which one, either the offense was actually committed in the presence of the police officer, in which case they would have the authority to arrest that person without a warrant, or two, there is a suspicion of a felony, a serious offense, having actually been committed.
So there's a cause.
So there is a reasonable cause for actually effecting the arrest. And thirdly, in the course of investigating a criminal offense, it becomes important to actually effect an arrest, in which case a warrant would have to be obtained to do so. But you see, the Criminal Procedure Code, the Criminal Code, as well as the Criminal Procedure Act are drafted in such a manner that they appear to give the police a very huge and wide, discretion. And so they don't usually understand that discretion ought to be exercised judicially and judiciously. You cannot just go on an arresting spree without having obtained some facts and carried out, investigations. You can't go on to arrest people on the basis of your intuition. You have to have done some investigative work. And in this case, of course, they then, go on to abuse that discretion that they have. The consequence is that the arrest usually is illegal.
Okay, so quite interesting because you mentioned arresting a suspect at the commission of the offense, as in on the spot.
Yes.
Then now you mentioned arrest with warrants and all that. So now if a police officer not at the scene of the crime, for instance, wants to effect an arrest, must he effect an arrest with a warrant of arrest? And if a warrant of arrest is not obtained or used to carry out such an arrest, is that what would automatically constitute an illegal arrest?
Now, it is not automatic that every arrest or any arrest is illegal where the arrest is not actually, carried out without a warrant. Now, the reason we have to obtain a warrant to carry out an arrest is that we want to ensure that we do not deprive a citizen of his rights to personal liberty. And so it is more like a halfway house between the police understanding and appreciating that you as a citizen have the right to personal liberty, as well as drawing a line between your personal liberty and your infringement on the rights of other persons. Now, when the process of obtaining a warrant to arrest a person is like in the same way you just obtain a court order. The difference, however, is that a magistrate or a judge gives you the warrant to actually go on to arrest a person without having to hear all the parties. All he needs to do is that when evidence is presented, that a particular party is required to present himself, maybe in the course of an investigation. A judge or a magistrate will then have the power to then effect a warrant of arrest. Now, what they do in practice, however, is this. They write you a letter of invitation, such that when you come, when they invite you, they would act very cordial.
Yes.
Now, when they invite you and you present yourself at the police station or at the police formation, they would now, do what they call administrative detention. They just detain you administratively and also grant you administrative bail. They might actually end up doing it on the same day, but the point is that, and the truth of it is that you have actually been arrested. You see, so you can argue for and against it being an illegal arrest. The point, however, is this. If the arrest is carried out in a manner that appears to be, proper, in a manner that respects your right as a person, in a manner that follows due process and does not intimidate you, then on a general basis, we can argue that it is not illegal. The problem, however, is that on the preponderance, most persons who get arrested are not usually invited. You just see a formation of the police, maybe SARS, that is Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or even Special Anti-Cultism Squad, SACS. They will just go on an arresting spree. They would
The way you mentioned
mobilize.
arresting spree is quite interesting because that's what actually happens.
It's what exactly happens. It's a spree because if you take the opportunity to look into their vehicles, after they have arrested, you would understand that it is a spree. It is like an orgy. They just go on arresting young men on the streets, maybe because they have dreadlocks or they
tattoos.
Yes, and
in fact, that has become viral. You know, there are so many videos online right now that have gone viral of this, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, and the FACS, how that they just see you. Now, if you're not looking, if you don't have
you.
Yes, they profile you and they arrest you based on profiling.
Yes.
Now, for somebody who has been arrested, for instance, so online, we saw a person who was saying he knows his right, and he was, because he had dreadlocks on, yet he was shouting that he knows his right. And these SARS were beating him. They put out their belt. They were hitting him with that thing.
I think at the moment just start beating you, just forget about your rights.
Yes.
And succumb first of all.
Yes.
Then live to fight another day. That's my personal opinion.
Of course,
those people that have fought, like, argue that they knew their right, some of them have been shot dead.
Yes.
Now, for such people who are arrested, eventually grabbed and arrested, no suspicion of any crime, nothing. They just saw them walking on the road and that. What remedy? What remedy do they have? You know, what right do they have? Can they sue the police? What can they do exactly?
Yes. Now, when I see, videos, with persons shouting about their rights and all that, I quite understand how they feel, but you don't argue when you are on the other end of a gun.
Okay,
that's the reasonable thing.
Let me butt in a bit. So
Yes.
let's go on this quick break, and we want to take a listen to our reports on this topic, illegal arrest, and a look at some of our legal nuggets. We'll be back. Just stay with us. An illegal arrest is an arrest made in a situation where it would not be authorized by law. This usually becomes an issue when people are detained illegally after being arrested. There are a number of settings where illegal arrests can occur and the legal penalties vary. Most commonly, private security companies are charged with illegal arrests, but law enforcement officers can also potentially violate the law when conducting an arrest, detaining a suspect, or searching a suspect under arrest. Laws about making arrests vary worldwide. Some nations place a very high priority on personal freedom and bodily autonomy for their citizens, and they spell out clear rules for situations where arrests are warranted and how these arrests may be conducted. Other nations believe national security and public safety to be more important than individual liberties in certain situations, and may have more lenience in the laws surrounding arrests. You're welcome back if you just joined us. This is the Courthouse, and we've been talking about illegal arrest. And this week we have two interesting personalities. Eliezer is a legal practitioner based in Nigeria, and Toyosi Okpanubi, who will be anchoring the Courthouse from time to time. So we've been talking about the legal arrest, and you were talking about people shouting they have their rights and all that when they are being molested or harassed by the police.
Such a scenario.
Exactly.
What do they do?
Yes. Now, the responsibility of every citizen of any country, especially ours, is to obey the police, to obey the army, to obey anyone who has authority over you. Yeah. Obey your parents, regardless. It is your responsibility as a citizen.
It should even be the first right.
Yes.
Your first right, just obey. It's not even our obligation now. It's not a right.
You just obey.
I feel like I want to contend that, because what right does the police have to tell me to hand over my phone?
The point is, while you're shouting, for instance, the scenario you mentioned, the person is shouting, I have my right, but is being beaten.
Yes.
Meanwhile, you could actually just succumb and, like we always say on the show, get your lawyer. And the lawyer will institute a fundamental rights action for you. Or, Eliezer, what do you think about that?
No, but you see, that was what I was actually trying to
Yes.
get to. You cannot fight for your rights if you are dead.
Yes.
You cannot fight for your rights adequately if you are incapacitated. You know, so the point is this. When the police order you to do a certain thing and you feel that that thing does not infringe or inhibit the right of another person, your responsibility as a citizen is first of all to obey. Now, when you have obeyed, you will then have the opportunity to insist on your rights at a later time. The same police, it will surprise you to know that while there are many, quite a number of policemen who are rough around the edges, there are also a lot of respectable persons in the
Yes.
police force. There are.
There are,
I've
yeah.
met loads of them. And they are everywhere too. So what happens is that when you meet a few of them who are rough around the edges on the street, you would have the opportunity to meet a few of them who act with properliness
Okay.
in the places where you expect to meet them.
Okay.
In their administrative offices, you'd see them everywhere.
Okay.
And when you take your complaints to them, they will handle it appropriately and efficiently. Now, if you are unable to get that done at that stage, the other thing you need to do is to not get angry, but get a lawyer.
Get a lawyer.
Okay. Now
Don't
let me
just
give you
get
a
mad.
practical example because I know that our viewers will be very interested in this because I read about it and I realized that this was prevalent in our society and somebody recently just died from it. You say we should obey the police every single thing they say. So there was this scenario that the police stopped the cab driver
Yes.
and he requested 2,000 from him. And he couldn't give him that. Maybe he didn't have it, or maybe he just thought that was absurd. You were on uniform and you were asking me to just before you let me pass. And he was shot. No, so in that scenario of another person, which is daylight robbery, what do they do in that scenario? Do I have to succumb to the robbery that is going on in the name of an authority, or do I hold my peace, or do I obey the police? What do the viewers do in
Now,
such a scenario?
Let me use another scenario to answer the question, like Christ would do. Now, if an armed robber came to you with a gun and said, "Give me 2,000 naira," what would
What
you
would
do?
you do? Because it's actually very simple.
Because that is
Probably
what he
speak in
really
tongues,
is.
but I would give
You
the
have to
money.
be
That is
diplomatic.
what it really is.
Okay.
You have to be diplomatic.
If you don't have the money, it's a different thing entirely. You
Yeah.
have other ways of explaining that you don't have
Please,
the
I
money.
have just 500. And you'd
But
have
you
saved
know
your
that
life.
the police is supposed to protect
While
us.
you are
We all
doing
know
that,
that.
while you're doing that, you are looking at the name tag. This for the benefit of the viewers.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes,
You're looking at the
yes.
name tag of that police officer. You are trying to get as much detail as
Yes.
you
Information about
can.
the
Yes.
person.
And as he said, you don't
Yes.
try to be the hero at that time.
course.
You go and approach a lawyer, and you get more than the 500 naira or 1,000 naira you're going to lose at that instant. You're going to get more.
Wow.
Then, okay,
Wow.
another question that a friend of mine actually said I should ask you in this issue of illegal arrest. Police comes to effect arrest in a compound, a large building, for instance, probably on a minor or any member of the household. After going with the person that they actually came to arrest, they go about taking the family member, maybe the father, the mother, the
Yes.
brothers and sisters as well. What do you say about this?
Now, again, it depends on the exact type of offense they intend to investigate here. If there's what we call causation in an offense. Now, if in the chain of causation, a number of persons are actually involved, maybe on conspiratorial alliances, they have a responsibility to effect the arrest of all those other persons too. That is where it is actually necessary. But where it is not necessary, then I don't think it is right to go on, again, an arresting spree.
Now that you've mentioned conspiratorial, for instance, how do they know? Because this is the arrest stage. Prosecution hasn't started, for instance. How do they know that they are supposed to be taken alongside with this subject of the arrest?
Now, that is very simple. If the police investigate an offender and an offense, just by taking a few statements alone, it is possible to know who and who may have been involved in that offense, or what and what contributions a particular person made, such that it could also constitute an offense that can have a grounding as a charge. So if that is the case, they would also have the responsibility to arrest. However, on a general note, we know that there can be no conspiracy between husband and wife. So in that circumstance, it is usually very, very difficult for the police to arrest a man and his wife.
Now, I'm talking of, for instance, now a child, because it was actually a real-life scenario. She said, this is a first-time arrest. It's not like investigations were already going on. They woke up in the morning to see police officers in front of their houses, and in this particular situation, the police officer actually came to arrest her brother. Her brother was not around, so they picked her, picked the mother and the father and some other siblings as well. Is that illegal arrest, or how do we do it?
No, but if they have a warrant of arrest stating an exact name, it is the exact name they have a responsibility to actually pick.
Yes.
Now, if they do not even have a warrant of arrest, they cannot go on an arresting spree, arresting an entire family because they want to.
This actually sounds like an arresting spree again.
You know, so what they have a responsibility to do is to wait for whoever it is who committed the offense to pick him up or invite him.
Okay. And in the event that they took, like you said, the woman, her mother, the child, what right do we have over them?
The proper thing for them to do is to invite a lawyer. That is, see, lawyers have gone through hell in this country. Of course, we know about the issue with Justice Onoge and several other judges, you know, in different arms in different departments of the judiciary. But the point is this: one of the reasons why Nigeria still stands as a country today is because of the lawyers you always berate. It's because of the lawyers you always abuse. Part of the reason we can still hold our own in the community of nations is because we still have a judiciary. If we did not have a judiciary in this country, life is going to be worse than hell. So indeed, you have a responsibility to invite a lawyer who knows the law and who can advise you and do appropriate things on your behalf.
Okay, that's actually what the show is about. We always advise, get a lawyer, don't get mad. But just give us your some of your thoughts on reforms in the area of this police. Are we reforming the police? What do you want to see, for instance, in the next 5 years or 5-10 years? What do you want to see in the Nigerian police force?
What do we even advise the government to do, especially with these extrajudicial killings, the police orgy or spree, you know?
Yes, I think first thing first, we need to look at the recruitment process of the police. What types of persons are we bringing into the force? We need to carry out complete checks on their minds. We need to use psychologists to look at you know, what they might be thinking. Some of them are quite suicidal in the ways they behave. So we need to look at even the recruitment process itself. Then we need to look at even their training. What type of training are we giving them? Again, we need to look at the reward system in the police. There are many officers out there that have been serving as, you know, corporals or sergeants for 9-10 years without promotion, and some of them get old. You know, this kind of reward system is completely balderdash. You cannot have a person in the same place for 9 years. You are not throwing him or her out, and you are not trying to reward sin. I mean, it's wrong. These and many more are some of the reasons they even have a cause to behave the way they do towards us, you know, civilians. Now, apart from the reward system, you also have to look at remuneration. How is the police paid in Nigeria? Sometimes some officers are paid as low as 40,000 naira. Some of them have a family of 5 or 6 children. How do you expect them to take care of their needs, their basic needs, housing, and look at where they live, the barracks. Those places are not fit for swine, but that is where humans live. Now, the story of the police in Nigeria is also the story of Nigeria itself. Really. You find those are the helms of affairs of the police force, doing extremely well. They live opulently, they get everything they want. And then you find those on the down, in the lower rungs of the ladder being badly treated. So that is exactly the entire story of Nigeria. I think this is high time for us to rethink all that I've just mentioned. And I believe if we do so, we would begin to get the right things done.
Quite interesting. Thank you so
Very
much.
indeed,
Toyosi, you want to make any comments?
I believe that he has said it all. I mean, we said it before now that they are so trigger happy, they are frustrated. Some of them are suicidal. So how do we tackle these things? And like he said, rightly said, we need to start helping, elevating them. They need to be reformed mentally. They need to be reformed socially. They need to go on evaluations and all these things, because you can't. How do we bring in? How is a police person? How is a policeman installed? So we need to look at all those things. The training, how are they trained? How are they,
Very interesting.
Yeah, so that's what we need to do.
Thank you so much for being with us this week.
Thank you so much.
Eliza, thank you so much. We hope to see you some other time.
Thank you for having me.
We've come to a very interesting segment, which is called the Bar Book, where we talk about favorite maxims. Now, my favorite legal maxim is ubi jus, ibi remedium, which simply means where there is a wrong, there's a remedy. Pastor Eliza, what's your favorite legal maxim?
Well, you have an interesting maxim there. It's one of the maxims
Yes.
I would always love. One of my best maxims, though, is quid plantator, solo sedit, which means whatever is attached to the land is a part of it.
Okay, so I'll stick with res ipsa loquitur. The fact speaks for itself. What you get is what you see. What you see is what you get.
Wow. The fact speaks for itself. So stay with us for more very interesting legal maxims. To stay with us.
Well, this is the Much We Can Take this week on the Courthouse. We had a very interesting discussion talking about illegal arrest, and I was joined with Toyosi. And Toyosi, you get to be seeing her in coming weeks, as well as Eliezer, a legal practitioner based in Nigeria. So I must say thank you for making this very interesting.
Thank you very much, Barrister Eliezer. We look forward to seeing more of you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
So we'd like to hear from you. If you have comments for us or you want updates, you can log on to our website on www.logboplus.tv. I am Itohan Olomo Agodo, and I say, don't just get mad, go get a lawyer. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.